Welcome to the Quality of Love podcast. I'm your host, Tyrone Dixon, nationally certified life and relationship coach, husband, father to two beautiful princesses, and CEO and founder of A Rose Through Concrete Consulting. Thank you guys for taking the time out to listen in with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Listen, man, we got some Black power on the line right now, ladies and gentlemen. We got Wonder Woman, super mother, tech guru, overall dope Black woman, creator, everything you could think of, all of the dopeness, all in one person. The one and only Lekia Hill is joining me tonight. Lekia and I met through our Black Media Mogul Maker class that I've been talking about quite a bit. And I fell in love with Lekia and her story and her journey and all the dope stuff she got going on. So I'm gonna get out the way. I'll let her introduce herself, and we'll have this interview, which I know is going to be extremely powerful. And a lot of women have requested a powerful Black woman to come up on here and talk to me. So here we have it. As you asked,
oh wow,
Lekia, please introduce yourself. Thank you for joining me, by the way.
No, I thank you so much for having me. I mean, that was some introduction. I really, truly appreciate, affirming and manifesting, my overall goal. I'm really, truly humbled for that, really, truly. So hi, everyone. My name is Lekia K. Hill. I am the founder of the Powerful Voices app and the founder of Lekia Tech LLC, where we create and develop socially conscious technologies. However, it hasn't always started that way. I'm an organizer, I'm a mom, just as what Tyrone was saying. I wanted to, although I have two ventures, we wanted to focus on the Powerful Voices app, especially with, us just having a last local election in 2022 being a huge election year nationally, yes, where people can come together from all across the country to actually organize around issues simultaneously with encouraging more voter registration and voter turnout, which is hugely important, particularly to our community, the Black community, all across the nation. I call them hoods across America. So,
yes, girl, drop them jewels.
You already know. And so I love this platform because of its authenticity and its honesty. So, we get to just relax and kind of dig into it. I'm also on board of directors for the YWCA and ACR Health. And I work in construction by day. I'm a hybridpreneur. So I have a full-time job and a full-time business, and I'm a full-time mom of a son in college and a daughter in middle school, So if I told you everything, we'd be here just over, an hour, just breaking it all down. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm so glad that you guys are tuning in to this amazing show. Tyrone and I are growing together and emerging together with our ventures, which are successful. And, we're just trying to take it to the next level. So,
yes. So that Powerful Voices app that you mentioned, is just like a little slide in there. Nah, she fronting, y'all. This is a big deal, right? She's going to act modest, but I'm not. This is a huge deal. She literally has created an app that gives power to the people and voice to the people. So she's gonna be shy about it, but I'm not. This is probably the dopest thing I've ever seen firsthand or heard of firsthand. We got Black women creating apps to uplift her people. Tell us a little bit more about the Powerful Voices app and what that entails and how you got to the point where you're like, you know what, our people need an app so they have a voice.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take you back then. Back in 2009, I was released from my position at JP Morgan Chase. And during that time, there was an economic warfare happening, right? Because that was just right after the crash, the 2008 recession had just taken place, and constituents like you and I from all social and economic backgrounds, except for the 1%, were saying, listen, if millionaires and billionaires paid their taxes, we could really dig ourselves out of a hole. Yep. I'm from New York, I'm from Yonkers, born and raised in Mount Vernon. So, it happened right in around my neighborhood in New York City. And on the news every single day, it was sort of like what I hate to compare the two, but it's very important. So there's this economic piece and this social piece, right? In this case, it was really, like I said, my introduction into this world was economics, right? So you had people from all walks of life screaming at, corporations telling them to pay their 1%. And I was like, what's that? Pay 1% for what? I mean, I paid taxes, but I didn't really understand that, in our political system, there's a structure. So yeah, I'm successful. I'm a banker. I had a few really good careers in my life. I'm making decent money and I'm being a great mom. I vote, all of those things, but nobody really told me about how our system works, right? There wasn't civic education, when I was coming up in school, too much happening in our neighborhood and in our schools about the actual process. I was blessed to go to a school with majority Black students and Black teachers. So I saw people looking like me. We always had assemblies. We had gospel choirs. So I didn't really have the experience of like, when it comes to like certain types of access and privilege in our schools. My principal, Mary D. Spells, she made sure we had everything. So I had a little bit of where I found now today. That's really where my start was, watching, the Dr. King, MLK movies, but she was what I know now today, an activist, right? And I didn't know that.
Shout out to her.
Yeah, she was amazing. So on the news, you see all these people, they're screaming, they're shouting, they got, posters and they're saying, protect kids, not millionaires, pay your 1%. And I don't know, I was just drawn to the television. I was like, I'm gonna go out there. My nana said, you better sit your ass down, you're going down there. And I was like, I need to know what this is about. So anyway, going on with life, just trying to figure things out, what I'm gonna do next. I get a call from an organization in Albany, and they're like, yeah, hey, we got your name from Daryl Oliver's brother. He said you were the person we needed to talk to have a rally in Yonkers. And I was like, really, a rally? Okay. He's like, yeah, you've been watching the news. And I was like, yeah. They said, all right, we want to do that in Yonkers.
Wow.
For state legislation, for New York state legislation. Our schools are failing tremendously. This is one of the reasons why, but there's so much more. The state owes us $1 billion, to public schools in urban and rural communities, poor urban and rural communities. Like your son, they're cutting sports, they're cutting education, they're cutting pre-K, they're cutting all these things. And we want to kind of unite and have something in Yonkers, because Yonkers is a very important city in the state of New York. Is one of the big five, right? And I'm like, wow, what? What's this? I'm like, sure. Is all right, we're going to send an organizer down there to talk to you. Sure. So this lady named Barbara came to my house. She was there in 3 hours. I literally thought they meant like tomorrow. Now this lady, she drove down. I kind of think she was already on her way down, but she drove down from Albany, and I gave them my address, and she came in and she had this like long trench Sherlin and this Sherlin hat. And I was like, lady, it's like 69 degrees outside, almost 70 degrees outside, not realizing upstate, because I've never been upstate.
Yeah.
It's like really freezing and cold.
Yep. It is, those weather is different.
Yeah, weather was different. I didn't know. I'm gonna learn later. I soon would learn later. But she came in, and she, she's like, Lekia, I'm so glad you had me here. She had Tim's on. She's sitting down and she's talking to me about what they want to do. And I was like, wow. But first she explained it to me. She was like, have your school been losing like band? I was like, yeah, we just lost band. My high school I used to go to, they can't play football anymore or whatever. Because, you're hearing there's this big buzz of cuts happening everywhere in school, simultaneously with this big Occupy Wall Street. When you guys got to look into it, Google it, I'm telling you, right? Because they try to put stuff under the rug, but I'll never forget. You never forget your first time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was like, well, what do you need from me? Because my son didn't play band, he was doing really good in school still or whatever. And my daughter happens to be, 3 years old at this time. She said, you plan on sending your daughter to school next year? I was like, yeah. She said, how? You're going to pay for childcare or daycare or something? You're going to pay for it? I was like, no, she's going to her brother's school. She said, no, she's not. They're cutting universal pre-K.
What?
I was like, what? She was like, yeah, they're trying to cut pre-K right now. So, kids all over the state are not going to be able to go to public school. Wow. Parents are going to have to find ways to pay for childcare. You know how expensive childcare is. She got me right here. That was all I needed to hear. Like, what? So she was like, right. She started explaining it to me. And I was like, all right. So, she's like, I just need a list of people. Who do we need to talk to? I want you to help me get people from your community to show up on this day. But here's the thing. We need to have it in like a week and a half.
Wait, so if I could pause you there, hold up, Lekia. So you went from banker to like semi-activist, right? When you went out, I just went out to check out what's going on. I don't really know what's going on. So, oh yeah, no, this is the person we need to contact to get somebody in their house ASAP.
Yeah.
How fast was that transition? That's amazing, actually. Like,
I
feel like that's God's plan too. Like that happened so smooth and seamlessly. Like
it was literally like that. I kid you not. Like what we talk about in class when you're doing, not only what you love, but what you were born to do.
That purpose.
Like,
yeah.
Shifting into purpose. But I didn't know. I didn't know. I still didn't know. You see what I'm saying? That's the other thing. It's just the reason why I was referred is because I was already active in my community, not necessarily by, fight the power, but throwing, showcases, talent showcases, comedy shows with Capone. Like I was out there hustling, like having fun.
Oh, right? That's what it was, Lekia. See,
I used to sing.
Listen, see, they knew you was the person that was gonna pull a community together. See?
Yeah, so he was like, you need to call Lekia Hill. She could probably help pull that together or whatever.
That's what's up. Man.
Well, his brother asked. So Daryl, I went to school with Daryl. His brother asked him somebody, and that's how that works.
So Capone, are we just for the audience? Is that Capone and Noriega Capone, or is
no?
Capone
is he's a comedian. He's a nationally acclaimed comedian, but very popular downstate New York. And during his time, it was like he real funny. He was hosting like shows. And out in the city, and I kind of wanted to bring that to Westchester, sort of like Syracuse try to bring stuff here, type thing. We already had the Locks and Mona Lisa and DMX and all those people from Yonkers is like, we say the sixth borough or the lost borough, not even the sixth borough because we're our own. That's how we used to talk. We have our own tax bracket and everything, but people try to play Yonkers, but you can't because YO is really the grit. Like if you just look at history, you and trace it back, especially for our community, it's proof is in the pudding. It's like right there.
So she's basically saying that YO is where it's at. Stop trying to play YO. It's not just a lot. There's a lot going on there. But she being nice about it. I got you, Lekia.
Yeah.
My bad. So anyway, I didn't mean to stop you. Go ahead.
That's okay. No. So I used to throw that's a whole other story because I wanted, this bad boy, Rough Riders, Murder Inc. There was nothing for women. I was like, I'm gonna create Showgirl Enterprises, Showgirl Records. I was just always that. I was always been a go-getter and just like have an idea and tackle it, see how it works. And if it works, great. If it don't, then I'm moving on to the next. So I've been like this my whole life, trying to fill in gaps, solve solutions, problem solve. I'm a Christian, so I've always known just not exactly what God called me for something, Father always told me I was special, that kind of thing, which isn't always great because that's a lot of pressure in your mind. You think you're supposed to do something and then you get into the real world and they like,
yes.
But you need to be broken down to build back. God, it's a whole bunch of stuff in there, just like break you down because you got all the pieces, and then let's build you back up to where they need to be so you can do my work. Yes. Right.
The work that you were called here to do.
That you were called to
Absolutely.
do.
I'm with you.
And the journey, that's just what it is. And this is what 8, 9, 10 years now in the making. To get to this point in my life. And I just got I got to keep going because I'm still not there yet. You know what I'm saying?
This is what I'm talking about, y'all. I told y'all we got one of the dopest, hypest, anything Black women on the block. Anything you can throw in there. She is huge for our community. She is huge for the world. As you can see, she's spiritually led. So, this is why people gravitate to the one and only Lekia Hill.
No,
stop. Now tell us about. So you have this woman in the Sherland in Thames in your house from Albany, New York. Tell us how, so now how did that conversation continue on?
All right, so just without giving too much, because we'll be here for hours, I'm trying to learn how to tell a story without like drawing it out so people don't lose interest, but they just know the facts to encourage and motivate them. So she was like, all right, so basically this is true though. She was like, so what you gonna do? Like what I loved about this job, because this was her job, by the way. So this is transitioning to something. I was like, dang, I would love to just like work and do this every day.
Yeah.
Listen, so anyway, I wrote down some names. The first thing you do, what we do? We take people to our community center, our neighborhood community center, go to the director, Mr. Bostic, this is what they want to do. Where do we start? That kind of thing. What they did was take care of the infrastructure, was the systemic part, meaning like unions and teachers and locals, the electrical, like those were their connections, but they needed somebody grassroots on the ground in the community. And without realizing, guys, like here's a strategy that you really got to pay attention to, because when you're in it, you're doing it for love and passion. You're not really looking at all those things until then you're building something of your own. So this is a great model, right? Yeah. So then they got people from the community, because she's not from my community, to kind of help do this thing. At the same time, it's encouraging and teaching me as we go along, just as a parent, as a constituent, And so we did that. We started having meetings. I started meeting union presidents in my child's school. So it even helped me with being more involved and engaged in my child's school, having more influence in what happens in the schools later. Yeah. So we did this thing, right? We had over 1,000 people in a week and a half. Promise you. And they had all the talking points. They merged with like all the other places, because they've been organizing all across the state of New York. They have 8 chapters. So it's a very strong, powerful organization already. You got to think about that. And they've have people like me for years, from other communities and other places doing the same thing. You got to think about that too, right? Yeah. And then they have the actual organizer to kind of hold it all together and find people like me, find new leaders, find people with some grit, right? To kind of train and teach them on the job, because they ain't got time to sit you in no classroom. Yeah, it won't be no
micromanaging in those situations.
Ain't no micromanaging, we do the work. So yeah, we had over 1,000 people. I got my son involved.
That's what's up.
In these talking points, I'm saying how bad the governor is. And I'm really think he's a bad, evil person, because I'm like, oh, you don't want to pass the budget and you liar. And I'm already angry from losing my job. Then you have all this energy. It's like, raw,
Ready to come out.
So I did that. And then I was like, the day of the event, we was at One Larkin Plaza, Yonkers Library, bottled water on the Hudson. I mean, I never seen anything like that in my city before in my life. I mean, it was just amazing. And I was like, her name is Francine Stretch. There's always this one woman or this one man or this one person that says something to you. And it's just like, so everybody, I was like, I want to do this forever. Like, I love this. I want to do that. How could I do this? I want to do this. She was like, oh, Lekia, you'll be great. She was like, you would be magnificent. We need you. And she was like, let's talk about it. It's like, oh, we're clapping and you hear the chanting in the background or whatever. And, once it all was over, they were like, yeah, we don't have here it goes, money, right? We don't have a chapter here. We don't have the funding to open one. And then I got upset about that, because I was like, oh, so you have me do all this, help you do all of this, and bring other people in to help or whatever. And then now you're just gone. Yeah. Like, that's it. Get our community all stirred up, ready to go. And that's it. And I was like, nah, like nah. Yeah. So I was like, contract me out. Whenever you need something, here go to hustle, right? It's just like, I can be a freelance organizer, right?
Did they accept that?
They sure did for 3 years. Not only that, they started passing my name around. In my own community, my name caught a buzz. Yeah. So I'm writing something called The Come Up, because this happens all the time. This is how great leaders, I believe, are made, right? Or I didn't consider myself a leader at this time either. I consider myself an activist, an advocate, right? but I think this is how they're made. Like, this is how we're made.
Yeah.
Then you have all the other people that become leaders just in their own households and in their own life. But then there's these people that, because they're getting older, you know, and I find myself now being 44. Back then I was like 33, 32, 33. But now I get it. Now I get it, which is going to lead to the app. Like, you know, as you get older or you grow to do more, be in other pockets, right? It pulls you away from the ground.
Yeah, that evolution process.
So it's
where
hard
you start
to stay
grow.
connected to the ground if you're going to elevate. You see what I'm saying? So you need more people to come in. And just like our generation at that time, it just wasn't our interest. You know, we just didn't know enough. Right. That's why I love the younger millennial and zillennial generation, because they got it. They're like our great grandparents, right? Like how everything comes full circle. They're like the silent generation, but they're not quiet. You know what I mean?
They're going to ask those questions.
And they're ready to go. You know, so so I did this for about 3 years with them, contracting myself out with them and other organizations upstate New York.
When you say contracting out, sorry to cut you off, but when you say contracting yourself out, so you were not just in the Bronx or YO at this point in time, Yonkers, you were in different parts of the state?
I had Westchester and Rockland territories.
What?
So I covered Westchester County and Rockland. I've been everywhere in hoods. When I tell you how my vision works right now, I think about that. When I say hoods across America, I was sent to impoverished communities throughout Westchester and Rockland County.
Wow.
And along the way, I even stopped in some suburban, you know, places because of, you know, people needing extra, even in suburban communities. That's why I have a whole different view about how we look at access and opportunities when it comes to saying, like, when we try to pin urban and suburban neighborhoods against each other, it's actually caused more divisiveness when you're comparing, because, you know, our representatives really work for everyone, and your representative represents your neighborhood. So if you live in a more affluent neighborhood and have a representative there, it's their job technically to kind of keep the interests of the people who live there, if you think about that, right? And that happens everywhere. So my theory or thought was, and then all the people that make decisions and like activists and big community leaders, which I don't consider myself anymore for a reason, but they too have like this stigma of, you know, divisiveness. If you listen to either sides where people are fighting for others, it's so hard. But the people in the neighborhoods I went into, like you and me, we're the sauce. I was like, oh my God, if we really talk to each other, we actually can get along fairly well to an extent, because especially if you're, I'm not talking about anyone, I'm not talking about human beings that have hate in their heart or that's fighting for power, more power than the other, if that makes any sense. And I believe in power. You see what I'm saying? No, we don't talk about it a lot, but this shit taught me that, money, power, respect. I get it now, Biggie. I get it, Kim. I get it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Power
is
always at play.
Right. And you need it. We all actually have it and have access to it. And then we get to choose, I believe, how we want to build that. And then our character comes into play on what we do with it. There's a difference here. And I was like, Dad,
come on with it, girl. Come on with it, girl.
But how do I bring the people together? How do I bring us? If we learn or know and understand what they know and understand, oh my God, we could pull the power back to us. So Dr. King was actually, people don't talk about this, before his assassination, the Poor People's Campaign was literally about that. He was bringing poor working class people from both sides, walks of life, urban and rural communities together. That's why they killed his ass. You see what I'm saying? But I don't even want to get into it but literally, there was a reason why they wanted to keep us apart, because the unity that would come together.
Yep. Same thing with Fred Hampton. You throw him out there too. Same exact thing. These brothers that had the ability to unite both black, white, all races. That's where you talk about power. Yes.
Right.
You just said something that I think is very important for the audience to hear again. Because when I heard it, I was like, ding, that makes perfect sense. You said that when it comes to representatives of specific areas, their best interest is to fight for that area or that district, wherever they're representing. That's what they do. Like, that's why they got put in that position versus a community leader who might be advocating in a different way, shape, or form, right? Which I think that is very important. And again, this is why I'm asking for you to elaborate on it a little bit, because sometimes the community leader might think they have our best interests at heart, and then a representative might think they have our best interests at heart. But at the end of the day, the white space really comes where nobody's talking to us. Everybody is just assuming that they have our best interests at heart, which is also so dope. And I really do, from the bottom of my heart, I can't wait to see all of that you're doing grow, because at the end of the day, you're creating that for us, like people like us that are like, okay, this dude saying he know what we want, but he clearly don't. This dude saying they know what they want, but they clearly don't. You're giving us that voice, and I want to say thank you.
Right.
I appreciate you. And could you just elaborate on that a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big deal.
Absolutely. But, well, if you think about it like this, because I started to grow and elevate myself. And then when I realized what was happening, right, over the years, I became a district leader. Then I started advising for campaigns for candidates. And then I was running campaigns, electoral campaigns for people who were running for office who won. So I started getting introduced into a whole, like, the different levels of this world, but yet still God has kept me centered to have this objective view, because my interests as going in was really about how do we solve this? Because it's unfair, it's wrong, but how does everyone have what they need, right? Because I had a woman in my life who's amazing, and I say this now all the time. She was like, you know, fairness is not everyone having the exact same thing, it's everyone having what they need. And then I took that, and then it just stuck in my head forever. And I started digging into it. I started unpacking it, right? And I was like, well, how does that work? What does that look like while I'm living my life? You see what I'm saying? Trying to do this work. And so to elaborate, what I realized was, here's me, then I get elected into office, and then I become a city council person, a mayor, a congressperson. You know, the bigger you are, the more responsibility, the further you're away, and you need a team. Put it like that. All right. Okay. So and this is when you talk about well attention. Now, if I'm from my community, and I got into this because I really do want to help my community, I think things are unfair, but now I'm not mature in my mindset as a leader, and I never had anyone to teach me how to be a leader, or I never took leadership to understand that process, because everything has a process, everything has a structure in a world of itself, right? But I just got in, and now I'm angry. I'm still angry because I'm hurt, and I don't want to hear anything from anyone, because I come from that. So I don't need you, white man, white woman, or other person not from here or whatever, to tell me what my people need. But yeah, I still haven't had any real, I'm a first timer, so I'm learning as I go, or as I grow, per se, which is mostly how all of us got started, really, technically, in a way. And then some of us have great mentors or whatever, but then there's the people who don't, you know, even if you do have a mentor, now your mentor is influencing you with their way, right? And there's no way you know what 145,000 people want, or 10,000 people, whatever is the number of population of people you represent, and if you're not talking to them. And then with people, what we got to understand, because it goes both ways, there's no way we could see our representative every day in our neighborhoods if they're doing work for us. So that's why I was talking about the removal, but no one is talking about that. No one's explaining that or thinking about that, because everybody's in their head in their own space. But if I become that, then I have to actually create legislation, right? Now it's my job as an elected official is to write policies and to vote on policies and think about how those policies that other people introduce impact the people I'm serving. My job is to protect you. But at the same time, we got to pass these. It's really hard work. It's not easy. When you get in there, you think, and for you say, I'll put you in there, and you need to, I get it, because I was that person. But then as I started to grow, I was like, oh my God, like, that's really hard if you need 50 of the votes in order to get it done.
Yeah.
And you doing this work. And then in that network, you got to build relationships with other senators, other council people, so that y'all could work together. So if you live in a town or a city where people don't rock with each other, that are our leaders, which is what like communities like Syracuse had struggled from, you know, a lot of like cities like these, people, our leaders were fighting each other. We didn't really have any real leaders per se, because they would be thinking about us and not fighting with each other. They would have
more
been
of a global,
thinking more right about how to make it work. And that's what I was seeing. But I do believe, you know, when you're in there, you are in there, your intentions are good. You really do want this, but you're not, like you said, talking to the people. How do you know that's what they want? How do you know that's how they all think and feel? Right. But here's the problem. We're going on, we don't really understand they need to hear from us. And I hear the narratives about us not trusting, and all those are true, but also we don't know. We just don't know that you need to, and we could talk to you, and we just didn't know that part too. Yes, racism, all of that is real, and it came and it tore us apart, and it made us think we can't trust, and but look at us. Come on, look who we are. We are kings, we are queens, we are gods and goddesses. We're smart, we are the most intelligent people on the planet. So that's downplaying our intelligence and our ability once we're told to really make a decision for ourselves. I don't like that now.
Yes. And right? I'll even add to that, Lekia, because you done got my heart starting to burn and get on fire here too. Where it's we are intelligent enough to articulate what we want. Right. We don't need you to talk for us. We don't. And furthermore, you talking for us creates more frustration from our end, because like you just said, what the hell is this dude talking about? Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of us look at it like that. I also think that you brought up another really good point. You brought up an educational element to it, right? Too, where it's, if you're going to want to be a leader in a community, a leader, period, right? You have to educate yourself on the ins and outs of something, especially when we're talking about civic duty. I think that was important too, just to reiterate, because so many people jump into it, and as you said earlier, we eventually we have to jump in, but let's educate ourselves as much as we possibly can before we hopping in, like you're saying. I love that.
And not just take the word of, you know, the people that we love and adore and respect. So what happened with me before I moved to Syracuse, because I moved, so let's just get through this real quick. So yeah, we had the big rally. I contracted myself out for 3 years and working through Westchester and Rockland counties, but I'm not really making any money. And hello, I got kids. Lekia, you got children. Oh, I feel like, oh my God, I forgot I got kids, because I'm leaving my children with my grandmother to do all this work, because I'm just so in it. It's like sucking me in. So every time I left my kids, it wasn't to like parties or anything. It was to go in somebody's neighborhood and talk to mostly parents and people about what I've been learning and what's happening around the state. And it usually happened around budget season, which is January, February, when you're for the state, because I came in on the state level, not a local level, but that's when they're really actually passing legislation, and they're voting on the budget, meaning like where the dollars are going to go,
exactly
to
where the
what
money
issues
goes.
they're going to go to. So that was my busiest time of the year for those 3 years. And then in between that, I fulfilled the gaps with just being a consultant for people's, you know, business development stuff or whatever have you. But that was hard. I've been gigging since my 30s. Well, since my 20s, but you know, I've been gigging since my 30s with this after I left Chase. And so anyway, so we do that. And then I was like, I gotta go back to work. And guess where I need to go back to? Corporate America, because that's where the money was going to pay me with my what I was qualified for, my work experience, but I was going to do insurance. And I have my own agency, actually. I just went for it, you know, and I have an associate's degree. I don't have a bachelor's. Anything that requires a bachelor's, which was mostly everything I wanted to do, I still applied for it, because I have like work experience, and I'm just like, that's not fair. That's my mentality for everything. So actually I was going to get the job. I did get the job. They made me an offer and it was great, but my cell phone rang and I didn't answer, because I was actually on the interview for the job at the my second interview, for the job with my second and last interview for the job with this insurance agency. Okay. And I didn't answer it. And then I didn't return the call or anything because I didn't recognize the number. So a couple of days go by, I get the offer or whatever. I listen to my voicemail because, it takes a long time to listen to voicemails. And I hear this woman, Rosemary, she's like, Lekia, I heard you wanted to be an organizer. I got your name from Billy and Francine Stretch. And we need an organizer in Syracuse right away. It's full-time, great benefits. Let me know if you want to do it. We need an answer right away.
Wow.
All right. I was like, oh shit, what's happening, God? Wait, what's going on? Like, what? And so I called her back and do you remember me from the meetings we would have in conference calls? And I was like, yes. And she was like, oh, organizer just resigned in Syracuse and we need someone there right now. Can you go? That's how they talk to you. And I was like, well, I need time to think about it. Well, we need you there in 2 weeks. So you need to decide right away. And why don't you drive there? We'll rent you a car, drive around and see. That's like how,
That was your first introduction to Syracuse?
Yes, that's how I came to Syracuse in February. I rented a car, stayed at the Red Roof Inn near Carrier Circle.
Wow.
And I drove around looking at schools. Because when I Googled Syracuse, I was like, okay, so my kids aren't going to those schools right now while I'm doing this because the graduation rate was 33%. And everything I read was so much violence and stuff. I was like, what the hell is going on? I had no idea that Tanika was dealing with all of this because all the organizers would be on a weekly or monthly call when they're working on something. So I knew the name and we would meet at retreats and stuff. So I knew the organizer, but I didn't really know her that well that lived here. Yeah. And I didn't know what she was dealing with, but I'm still just dealing off of the passion. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I drove, it was cold. And I was like, okay, so I went to Liverpool. I'm like looking, I was like, I don't know where to go. I don't know anybody. Because the person who called me lived in Rochester. And the organization that ran the chapters were in Albany. So there was no one here for me.
So they were pretty desperate. Like, listen, man, I
think what they did now that I know them well, I think they said, let's find somebody that we could get. Well, what about Lekia? She goes everywhere. She does everything.
They got you, girl.
And the Francine, oh yeah, she said she wanted to do this for the rest of her life.
They got you.
That's how I literally came to Syracuse. No family, no friends. I'm about to pick up my kids and move them to somewhere. But my coworker was like, hey, I live in the Meadows, why don't you move there? It's still attached to the city, but unfortunately redistricting line says it's not, but it's still Syracuse and the schools are really great. Her sons went to a charter school actually. She was like, but you could live there for a year and then figure it out, get acclimated, learn the city, learn the way. Because when you start working with the school, you're going to meet people and then that'll make you feel more comfortable, whatever. And that's what my intentions were. But when I got here, people were not kind. They were not that embracing.
Yeah. We've been told that we are a little we're a little abrasive around here.
I was like, what did I do? So, and then the fact that I wasn't from here, that came up so many times, the 914 area code. And so I didn't understand, right? I was just I was still maturing myself. Yeah. Right. I understand it now. I had so much anger in my heart and my experience for the first 2-3 years here, but I stuck it through. I kept knocking on doors. I found new people. People left the chapter. It wasn't pretty.
What areas did they have you in? This is just curious. Just popped in my head. Where did you go?
Members, I'm sorry. The community members were great. It's the leaders that weren't.
I've been told.
Okay.
I've been told
it was the leaders that weren't. It wasn't the people. The people was like, where you from? It was, yep. And I'm telling them something. I'm knocking on their doors. I'm with petitions and I got this and I'm telling them, listen, I'm trying to rebuild this chapter and we having this meeting at this time. Can you come? And then those who stayed, they were much older. They were older people and they wanted to kind of help out as much as they could because they've been involved for 8 years. And when I tell you this organization that brought me here did a lot for this community, despite what anybody says when it comes to legislation, giving people opportunity with jobs, even though they weren't permanent, hiring them to do petitions and stuff. They brought a lot to this community, but that's another story. The whole story, the shortcut of it is I had to come. I moved here. had to rebuild the chapter. They lost funding after a year and a half, and I was left alone. They just, because no one lived here.
Yeah.
I was left alone to just keep going. And that's all I could do, is because I built relationships with the community members and the people that was a part of the chapter. I wasn't thinking about building a personal life. So that's all I had.
Yeah.
Right. And only had the members. Then they weren't family. They were just people that I was working with. So I spent a lot of time, trying to hold on to that, because I didn't make any friends. I didn't have no time to date, which I learned that had nothing to do with it, because it's just a bad place to date. But it was.
This is the Quality of Love podcast, Lekia.
I'm sorry. Oops. But yeah, so it was heavy, but I kept going and I kept building myself up. I was networking and I was trying to figure out what I want to do. I contracted myself out again. This is where I grew, because what I did at home was only for about 3 years. When I came to Syracuse, I became a woman. I became a leader. I became everything. I love this place. I love this community. I love Central New York. I love upstate, to be honest with you. And I've seen our potential, but I didn't understand why I was a civics advocate. I only talked about the civic stuff. And there was no room for me, because still even the leaders and other people weren't interested in what I had to say when it came to that.
I could jump in again, this is where, going back to what Lekia was saying about sometimes the leaders in the community might hinder progress in terms of civic engagement. That's a perfect example, right? When you're open to communication, when you're receptive to communication, then we can all get on the same page and we can educate people more. But I think again, I had to cut you off right there, Lekia, because I know that was a struggle, and I still hear stories about community leaders that are not open and receptive to sharing information, which I think personally that kills our community, man.
Well, back then it was worse. Today, I will tell you, it's gotten a lot better because of this surge of now. If you think about it, those kids that were in high school were coming up. That's the zillennial and younger millennial information. So you had a new rise of constituents who want to ask questions and be involved and want to make things happen. And so those leaders had to adjust themselves to accommodate them, if that makes any sense. Because they were losing their control and their power. So now they had to really step themselves up and get to work. Right. And so what they did was, they found pillars. They found other people to kind of groom, because this is a process. I promise you, I know no one is surprised by what I'm saying. This happens everywhere. This is not unique to Syracuse. This happened to me in Yonkers before I moved to Syracuse. So now I'm just watching it happen with other people. The same thing that happened to me in Yonkers, I saw started happening to other leaders and young leaders in this community now that are doing great things. I saw the same thing. Some branched off and started doing their own, and some stayed under the wing of the people who, brought them up. And both of that is fine. I was a person in Yonkers who broke myself off and wanted to, because I had my own vision and saw my own thing of what was needed, and I had my own sort of work to do, right? So that's a good thing and a negative. It's a positive thing, but it could be a negative thing depending on who's the person grooming you, and who's the person that is your mentor, the person that's pulling you in, and the type of conversations you're hearing for the first time, and what they're saying about other people that they literally don't know. So if you don't got thick skin, and if you don't have a voice of your own to kind of speak for yourself and let people see you, so they can make their own opinion, you can get really stuck. And it doesn't matter if you're from a place or not, because, we have a problem with leadership in our community, among the Black community, where we fight with each other. We can't even work together. And I know people say, I'm so tired of hearing that. And but it happens. It's getting better. It's getting better, but it only gets better when we have a national tragedy, or we have a national, a big community issue, like somebody gets shot by a police officer, or that brings us together for a little while.
Yep. And then we separate right again and start doing our own thing. We separate
again, because nobody was fucking with me like that for real. No, I'm not gonna say nobody, because that would mean that the people that are nobodies, and they definitely are not. But certain people weren't messing with me like that. But those people had positions where their organizations or their role in government was a decision maker or whatever. That they didn't
want to rock the boat.
Right, I had to make my own way because they had their own plans, which is also, again, everything has its okays and not okays. I think none of it is okay when you're not connecting, which is why I built the app. And if that's what you wanted, I wanted to just make it easier for our communication pool, but I wanted to make it easier for us to organize ourselves in connection with our leaders. I wanted to stay, my prayer was always to be objective. My prayer was always to not let my own personal feelings that I had against someone or something interfere with what God wanted me to do. And that was hard because I was always sick. It was just a lot. I went through a lot. And up until 2016. And that's when I did that break off that you were talking that we didn't get to yet because we're so stuck here, but it's because it's important. But you know, all of that happened. What I did was take all of that experience, guys, and try to build something that works around that or that could resolve some of that because none of it was helping us. None of it was helping us.
So you know, identify the white space within our community, this whole white space term, right? With that, how do you actually, I'll just let you go ahead and tell us what specifically the Powerful Voices app does for someone who signs up for it or who joins.
So first I just want to say, when Alton Sterling, I want to tell people this because people, you know, we have so many tragedies that, you know, some get forgotten or they're not forgotten necessarily, we just don't hear about them. And I just want people to always know that it is them and their death that brought this, that is the foundation of what I created. And I think that's important. I will always and forever want people to know that, that when Alton Sterling and Philando Castile were brutally murdered, and our leaders were telling us to call our lawmakers. And I knew from organizing, most of us didn't know who our lawmakers was. I wanted to create something that did that. And Beyonce, I think my son had created something. I didn't know this during the time. She had something briefly on her site where you type in your zip code or not typing your zip code, but it had who your representatives was based on where you lived or whatever for each state or something like that. But then of course it gets taken down because it's on her site. It's not, you know, she's an artist, she's an activist and an advocate, but you know, I don't know. I looked for it. I didn't see it was still there. But anyway, she created something like that. But you kept hearing people and more people rolling up and then they're organizing and they're on Facebook and they're in all these different places. And I was like, nah, I want to build something that we can have of our own, that when our leaders say, call your lawmakers, we can open our phones and they're right there. Email, phone number, website. Then I called my tech team because I was in the process of building something else, a different tech device, a different app. And said, hey, I want to create this app. So I want to take my money because I use my savings and stuff for this and put it towards an app that does this. And fortunately, she was an environmental justice organizer and an advocate herself. And so she was all in. And then we started digging deeper about what this thing could do and what it could look like. Then I needed to do more research, and I was working at Interfaith Works running racism dialogues and building racism dialogues. I mean, so all of that actually, looking at our structural racism process, this is all learning on the job again, right? And I'm bringing this into this space. And I spent, you know, months there watching videos, learning about civics, learning about our process of government on a different level, including structural racism and diversity. And then I'm like, oh my God, how do I bring that to this thing too? So God let me do that to see how, you know, allowed me to work there so I could see, because he knew I was going to build this thing.
I'll be calling these situations the perfect storm. And it's like everything just coming together and you know, it's like, oh, I see what's going on here, God. I see you. I see you.
Yep. And I was getting so tired at being at that job because, you know, it's a refugee resettlement agency, which is amazing and it's great, but I'm Black American, you know, and the racism dialogues allowed me to get into the life of refugees. And I saw my own privilege as even a Black American who, you know, experiences her own oppression in some ways or whatever from different identities. But that's when I said, oh my God, our stories is nothing like theirs. These kids are growing up in the middle of bombs and war. Oh my God. So, you know, it's a humbling experience and it starts to now expand your mind, right? Your human approach, your humanistic approach and your the spirit part of your being. And then you're learning now that, oh my God, race isn't even real. It's a social construct. It's not even a real thing. We're all human beings. Oh, snapping. Right. So now I'm advancing and I'm expanding my view. And like Nipsey Hussle say, now God is giving me this bird's view. To like all these different areas, but still I'm getting all of this with no power, right? No influence really, anything, right? Because he's like, yeah, because you're still building, and I wasn't looking for it, but I'm just saying like, what am I gonna do with this though now?
I got all this information. What do I do with it?
Information. He was like, you're gonna quit your job.
Ooh.
I was like, what? Because Steve Harvey during this time, now I know algorithms was doing this. I kept seeing the jump video that he had.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then I'm upset at work because they didn't raise no flag when out to Sterling and Philando Castile died. But they raised the flag for other stuff, and I got an attitude about that.
Yep.
I was like, oh, y'all niggas ain't gonna raise the flag. After these brothers died, and when I went
got
to
no
work,
love for our folks.
I was like, it's so silent. But when the Muslim ban was coming and all of this stuff was going on, it was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And like there was so much remorse and stuff happening, and I was remorseful too. But then I was like, but hold on a second.
Yes.
It's crickets right now.
Yes.
No one's saying anything about what just happened. What I was furious. And I'm impulsive, right? So, these are things that I identified about myself now that I work on. But at that time I was impulsive. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I'm leaving, I'm getting out of here. And I knew they started seeing the lack of my performance and stuff like that. So I knew eventually that I was gonna get fired And so, I made a decision. I was ready to go. And my director at the time made a decision. It was time for me to go. So we came to a mutual understanding. And I got me a nice little severance. And then I also got unemployment. And then I just started getting back out there again, going to conferences, trying to see what's going on. Because this is what I tell people, especially if you're not working, you're still working. Your job is to find out the next thing you need to do. You're not supposed to be at home watching TV, soap operas, and all that other stuff. You got to get out there. You got to network. And I always known that networking was the key to everything. You see me at work networking, right? Networking
I gotta ask this real quick, because one of the first stories, like when we first started talking, one of our first conversations, you had shared with me that you stepped out on faith. And when you stepped out on faith, is this the time you were referring to when you said, "Oh, I had to step out on faith and just really focusing on what I need"? I just that'll always stick with me from our first conversation, because you were so like, you was like, I don't care, like this is it. I knew what I had to do. So could you just like explain to people like what made you like, nah, like this is it, this is what I got to do? I already know. Like, did God come to you and was like, nah, this is what I need you to do, or how did that work? Because I felt it as soon as you told me that. I was like, dang, this girl, she ain't mess. This woman, I don't mean literal girl, but I'm like, this woman don't mess around, boy. For real.
Well, I had been practicing a lot about self-awareness prior to that in my life. I had started this positive, productive living like lifestyle of mine, because I started a journey of like, who am I? What am I supposed to do? Why am I here? I used to suffer from suicidal thoughts, and stuff like that too in my past as well, from depression, especially seasonal depression used to get me. So in that, I had these habits or these, in addition to studying my scripture, I've always been a child of faith since I was like 12 years old. I made the decision, since I was a baby, my family made the decision that I'd be going to church and this and that. But when I was 12 was the first time I walked to the altar on my own. And from then on, I just always incorporated God in my life somehow. So I really believe that we are all called for something very specific in our lives. The impact of that is not the same for everyone, but we all have some purpose and intent. I'm not a person who believes that, I'm here just to be here. And I might be here some of us may be here to be a part of someone else's plan, and we're not like the head of that plan, but that role is just as important. Like in the body of Christ, all pieces work together for the good of the Lord. Like that is so important. So we all have a role, and we are the leaders of that role, sort of to be synonymous to what I talked about, like the people in our community. So I've always had that mindset, right? And so when that happened, yeah, you're right. Something just was like, no, you're just going to go. And my family, and remember I told you I'm impulsive and stuff, my family gets scared because I've always also been a person to just tackle things, like but I didn't know at that time, I wasn't really thinking about how it impacts everybody else. Because it was a good thing. So quote unquote, it's for the good, or it's a good thing. It's not nothing bad. I'm not partying, I'm not drinking or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm still wasn't thinking about how, the time was infecting my son, who was older than my daughter during that time, or my grandparents who were raising me. I didn't think about all of that. I just had this vision and this thing that I just gotta do. And then so during this time, and that was before all that. So during this time, it's the same thing. I was like, yeah, I need to get out of here. Right. I'm just going to just quit. But I told you also that at this time I was more mature. So I had a conversation with my children. Right. I really thought about it. Right. I even thought about like, how can I make extra money on top of, what I was getting with unemployment. And also, I also believe that what we put out, we get back. So I needed to honor our system, since I was working on something about the system, if that makes any sense. So because I was receiving social services, Medicaid, and food stamps, in addition to my unemployment, what I learned was when you could actually gig. When you're gigging, there's a form they have you fill out. Even if you're not making income from a job, you fill out this form to report any income you get from any gigs you have.
I never knew that. You just put me on to something. I never knew. So you can do small jobs while you're on social services.
You can gig while you're on social services.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, and then I also didn't file my taxes for about 2 years. So I knew I was going to have a large return from 2012 and 2013. I had just been holding on from 2013, 2014, 2012, 2013. Sorry. I was just holding on to that for so I get a lump sum, because that wasn't my first time. Like, obviously, like I told you before, being like losing a job and not working, I had learned that the return on my tax return, I would use that to pay my rent ahead of time. So I would pay like 2 months ahead, because I would get like $6,000 back or whatever. And then I would use that money to prepare for the breaks that I was going to have and not working. And then I would hustle to get training gigs, because I developed curriculum and trainings for parents to teach them about this, to keep it going, and just to keep the momentum going. What I never stopped doing, by the way, even after they lost the chapter and so forth, I created my own training to train parents in this community how to advocate and lobby for their kids with their representatives. So I was doing all of that in between time. Right. So
it never stopped for you. Like everything.
It never stopped.
This is why I know I keep telling y'all this is Black woman magic in full effect, man. She don't stop nothing. And literally I can attest to that, because when we in our networking sessions of our class, Lekia be on it, man. She like always like, nope. She even elbowed me out the way one time. I wasn't supposed to share that. I wasn't supposed to share that, but yeah, she elbowed me out the way one time to get to somebody in the
sorry, I wasn't. I was like, oh, you going over there?
No, she like the elbow. Sorry with an elbow. How does that even work? Like, she hit me with the elbow and then said sorry.
Stop it.
No, man, but I'm so serious when I tell you that I think you absolutely Black woman magic, Lekia. You so dope with just the way you move, and also your spirit, man. Like you don't take no for nothing. Like you somebody that's gonna figure out how to solve a problem, and I think that's dope, man. I really do. I think that's super dope. There's also one other story that I think I feel like our spirits connected on this story, but I'm gonna make it known to the audience. But there was a time where I asked you, like, what do you be doing? How do you go and talk to people? And you're like, when I first started, I literally just went to all the neighborhoods, talked to everybody, and blah blah blah, and not blah blah blah, but just kept as we were going in the conversation, and you're like, and I stopped and I asked you, I'm like, didn't people like say get away from you and all that good stuff? And one of the things you said that I'll again take with me is like, he's like, yeah, but I had to see it for myself. If I didn't see it for myself, then and I'm like, damn, I'll be doing that too. Like people will tell me like, nah, don't do that or don't do this. And literally there's something in me that's like, nah, I got to see for myself. Even if it is what they talking about it is, I got to see for myself. And I just thought that told me a lot about you and how much like you really care about people. And I just thought that was dope. So I had to throw that out.
Thank you. Yeah. And then wisdom tells us, like, so I will tell you, I made myself sick. I don't want people to think you have to have, this is how I give back now. I share my story because now I have hypertension, heart disease, right? Because that's a very stressful world. And tension, we hear a lot about like the clogging of our arteries and stuff like that. But the tension damages our heart muscles. And it impacts the electricity in our heart. So my condition is more about that. So now my heart has to pump harder and contract harder because I had uncontrolled high blood pressure. So all of that work, and really this didn't start for me until I shifted and went into this work, literally caused so much stress on my life. I was in and out of the hospital during this time a lot. Leaving my children, at home and to fend for themselves. Then it triggered my mom has hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's an inherited heart disease. So it made mine come sooner than later. And I have a loop recorder implanted. So my heart is monitored 24/7 right now. And I really truly believe if I had someone, even someone who, sometimes you see a hard-headed person or someone you think is hard-headed, but there's this one person that sees you and they understand you because they see you in them, would just come and talk to me. I had pockets of those and those are the people that I trusted. But Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins one day told me that I was exceptional. She was like, there are exceptional people in the world, right? She was like, you're one of them, which that means is that, I'm going to have to go through these experiences alone most of the time because there's something very specific that I needed to do. It was called for me. She's a very spiritual woman too, right? And I've seen and said this to other people as well. But it's all done so that we can come back. And I'm not saying my heart is messed up and broken just so I can come and help other people. But the story is to encourage those who see people like me, who's always on the going, and not just saying, oh, you need to slow down, but really talk to them, embrace them. Right. I think if I was still at home, I kind of had that a little bit, but when I came here, like I said, nobody knew me. I'm a stranger in a strange land. And maybe some people didn't know how to approach me. And then some people are just plain evil, got to call a spade, or not evil, but they just, they don't
have the best intentions at heart.
Right. They just don't rock with you. And that's it, which is unfortunate. But what I will tell people is, this is when wisdom comes into play. I still do those things, but I think it through because now I know I'm not the only one. I'm not alone. There's more people like me or on the path of growing and becoming leaders and influencers and innovators and creators, And sometimes it feels like that because there's so much going on and we're so scarce, and you don't really, it's hard to find your tribe of people to know you're not alone in doing it. So you feel like you got to do everything. But I had to learn too in my spiritual relationship that I got to trust God in that body of crisis, of that body of Christ. Body of crisis. I need to write that down. That's another thing. But that body of Christ that I was telling you about the working parts, I got to trust God that there's other people and they are. That's why I love podcasting and stuff, because you can hear yourself in other people when you listen to it. You're like, like what we're doing.
Yes.
This
the space is so dope. Yeah.
So it makes you feel it gives you some comfort in a sense for those who, feel like that are fixers, which was me, and I started to be specific in my prayer. I stopped praying for other people and praying for my family first. So I was praying that God use me to help the community and help this and help that. And in the meantime, as a single mom, my kids who don't have a father, they don't have somebody else who loved them the same way I do. They got a grandmother, yeah, sure. And my great-grandparents, absolutely, because that's just a whole other thing. But outside of that, it's just me, and I'm not putting my family first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So I had to find that balance. That's so important.
Yes.
And then I wanted to live a life too. I want to live a life. Maybe I don't have a husband because I'm always on the go and I'm moving. And then also my location and where I live doesn't privy me to, exposure or access to, different people. It's just, you got to live in Syracuse to understand and know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So
I definitely feel you on that.
They're like, oh, it's everywhere, girl, or whatever. But that's my whole point. But what technology allows us to do is to make that easier, to really kind of find what we're looking for more sufficient and efficiently, if that, right?
Yes.
And that's why I created the app to do that for us, because there was no Civic app. There was only 4 other ones, and then mine in 2016. Now it's a thing. Now there's a lot of them, but I was one of the first. And the disparity was they were Facebook and countable. They were white male Silicon Valley people.
Yep.
But none of them was organizers. So theirs didn't do exactly what mine did. We had something similar. And mine is I'm still trying to raise money and get it. I'm still competing because some of them made mergers. Like they did all that big stuff.
Yeah.
And here where I live, I tried to get help, but now people are creating the city, all these places are creating their own thing. So I was like, God is saying, don't get upset about that because you created yours for the people.
Yeah.
Yours is the end users. You're all about end users. You're not about, people won't see, ads, and we don't use algorithms to try to manipulate you and make you want to purchase things or do things you don't want to do. That's the difference between my app and anybody else's. My app has integrity.
Yes.
My app is
Speak on
literally
it, girl.
for us. And I'm trying to find a way for my end users to have an investment in this. So it's really, truly the people app. And I won't say my app anymore. And I could say our app.
Yes.
Right.
An app for the people that speaks for the people. A woman for the people that speaks for the people, by the people. Man, listen.
That's my source. And I can release it now. They tell you to not say anything. Well, I could say that now because what I've known is I got to do more of these.
Yes.
So that the people will believe and see, like, you know what? I'm not going to download that one. I'm going to download the Powerful Voices app, or I'll download that one and use it for now, but I'm going to also help build this one because this is our app. And if you download it, you see it. You see the feedback button. You see the tutorials. Like I made it so that we all could have a voice and we could build this thing with what you need as well.
Yes.
Now I got to see how we all could make money off of it and off of each other. That's the goal. Because you can't run a business without any money. And the way people make money through apps is through sales, like products, in-app purchases, or through advertisements and stuff like that. This then becomes not a tool for us, but then it becomes just like everything else. And that's not what we want. Yeah. We really want an actual tool. It's a tool, a working body tool. It's not something for you to be on every day, unless you want to. It's not to see debates or opinions yet. It's really for us to do the work. And we got to bring our leaders to it. This is a place like, you want to find me, this is where you find me.
Yes.
You want to host a town hall on this.
Yes.
So that, you know what I'm saying?
We're bringing them to us. We no longer going to them.
We're
bringing it to us.
Exactly.
Bring it to us, to the people, by the people. I'm with you. I'm listening. I'm down. There is more to this woman. I know we talked about a lot already, but there's something else that I have to have her touch on. And that's can you tell the people about the 3 C's? What's
3
that?
E's.
3 E's. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry about
that. There
are
some C's, but yeah. 3 E's: empower, encourage, embrace. It's a lifestyle in that order.
Tell them about that.
3 E's. So 3 E's back in 2000. All right. So there we go. Okay. So 2008, I was living in Virginia. I lost my job that's when the crash happened. So I was working with Clear.
I mean, you just be out everywhere, girl. You really do be in every hood in America, huh? You ain't playing. I'm gonna stop. Like I'm gonna listen to you when you say that from now on. I thought you be playing. You be every
No.
hood in America for real. Okay, my bad.
Clear Channel, Newport News, Norfolk,
Bad
Virginia.
news.
Okay.
Yeah, bad news too. Oh Lord, this woman. She been in the hoods in Syracuse. She been in bad news, VA. Oh my God, this woman been in the hood of hoods, man.
Start.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off, but dang, you really do be in the hood.
I'm right. I'll be a part of. I'm adjacent to it though. I'm not gonna front. Now my cousins in them, but I still, you know what I mean. Born and raised in one. Once you go somewhere, you're like a part of it. But I wasn't in the streets. You know, I gotta start. I mean, my cousin was like, "You're trying to act like you was out in these streets or whatever." I was like, I wanted to go to the store and hang out with y'all for a little while, but I had to leave. I wasn't standing outside on that corner. My cousin used to rob. My own cousin used to rob me when I used to go to the store.
What?
That's a whole other story. It's so funny. Yes, he used to. He literally used to be like, "I know you got money, kid." Like he used to pat me down.
Wow.
We be laughing about that story sometimes when I see him. It's so funny because he was out there. See, I wasn't one of those. I wasn't a part of no, you know. But don't mess with me though, because again, there's my family.
They
so,
all out there. Clearly,
they all out there.
There's a public warning. Don't mess with her because she got people that know people.
I got people and know people. And then also that talk to me and tell me the truth to help me. Listen, I got a plan, guys. Like, you know, like I said, you know, I get people. I did a part of when starting your business, you got to do discovery. There's something called discovery. Oh, and I really want to say real quick too, guys, like when you think about what I was saying about the intelligence part, like if we're not intelligent enough, there's lingo in every industry. So what the leader does is take the language they hear from us, from our culture, or how we express it or what we're saying, and then they bring it. What you're supposed to do is bring it, you know, not dress it up, but then put the appropriate lingo to make it work and get the bills created and the bills passed. So it all, but that's another thing. But the same thing I did with discovery, because I was like, well, I know my app is for everyone because it's for constituents. I'm targeting, you know, urban and rural, poor urban and rural communities where incomes are low, education, you know, is low, struggles, all that stuff. So I needed to talk to people and get the honest to God truth about some things. Cause I said, listen, this app isn't interested in whether you sell drugs or not. It's not interested in whether it's not trying to break into your business. Because to be honest with you, when you get involved in this work, it also starts to change your life anyway, because you start to really see the truth about how our system is and it works. And there's testimonies to that from people who sold drugs, from people who were not so good people. And they, you know, got involved and it really changed their life and how they work and they act and approach life. So getting involved in civics to any magnitude is very powerful. Yes, it's very powerful. And I think that's why they try to keep it away from us. You see what I'm saying?
They definitely understand
knowledge
the power.
Is power.
Yes, that's what it is. And then the application of that knowledge is like we could take it over.
So if you have civic knowledge, and then who poisoned our community? Because it would be people that look like us that would tell us our votes don't matter and talk about the white man and this and that in separatism, which some of that may or may not be true, but it has nothing to do with the American system that we live in, because that's not going anywhere.
Not at all.
You know, law and order is, first of all, it's detrimental to our society. We need it, but it's really what that law is and what it looks like, how it's applied, how it's affected, how it affects everyone, and if it's really just and fair. That's the thing that we're dealing with here, right? So when we empower our community, it's like I found myself battling those sentiments that our votes don't matter, but they're taking it away from us. We had a voting act that expired after 50 years. Like, think about that. If it didn't matter, why in God's earth are these things now today happening? Stop. poisoning our communities. I don't care who is from, white, black, blue. I don't care what religion. I don't stop telling the people in our neighborhoods, especially out here, that our votes don't matter.
Yes.
Because it's a goddamn lie.
Yes.
You need the votes. You have to vote. That's the first step. But then it's staying engaged. That's the second step. And we'll get to the third step another day. But there's steps to this thing.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so, like, I'm trying to build an army. And I know where our focus is. Our focus is civics. Our focus is civic education. And if you want more, we'll bring you more resources, because I know my lane and I know where I'm at. But I built the relationships, the partnerships, and everything. That if you want to do more, you want to go further, we could hook you up at Powerful Voices with that too.
Ooh, there go that Lekia. I'll be talking about.
The same mentality, same level of integrity. Like, if you want to go, I might not be the person to do it, right? Because I don't do trainings and stuff anymore, but I found programs that are authentic. Like, if you want to run for office, I got a perfect program for you to do, and you can do it virtually, thank God now, that you could be a part of, to learn just what you need to know, all the rumors and gossip and all that stuff that's toxic and that really forces people to kind of sometimes change their mind and make them second guess themselves. If you feel like you could do this and you could impact your community and you want to do it from the inside out versus the outside in, we're creating a space that we could address all of that.
There you have it.
It's not just an app.
Nah, it's way more than that.
It's way more than that.
Way more than that. Power to the people is what it really is.
Yes, real power to the people.
Real power to the people.
Power to the people.
Oh man, I want to ask this last question, and then I'll kind of leave it to you to tell the people whatever else you want to tell them. But I do two things. First of all, you brought up a good point that, again, you hitting all the buzzwords that's getting my brain churning. A little story. One of my friends, him and I had an argument over this recent voting, just the local voting for our mayor of Syracuse and all that good stuff. And he's like, I'm not voting. That's stupid, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, bro, why do you think they're putting voter suppression laws into play? Like this, it's not because your vote don't count. It's because they're trying to minimize it. And literally it took me having that type of conversation with him for him to be like, oh, shoot, like, that makes sense. Why would they, if our votes don't count, if every vote don't count, why would they be trying to suppress our votes? And I'm like, ding, ding, ding. So that was dope. But then the second thing I have to ask you, because I know that this is going to be a follow-up question by at least one member of my audience. What do you think that we can do, or that you can do, to start bridging that gap between the people that actually go out and vote in our community versus those that might not think their voice matters?
Well, download the Powerful Voices app. Ooh. Because the Powerful Voices app, when you create your account, we also ask you your level of engagement, and it's color coded. So green is like, yeah, I'm very active. I'm in this thing. I know a lot. I do a lot. I do more than voting, whatever. Yellow is like, I'm sort of engaged. At least I'm a voter, maybe, but I do other things. And I, sign petitions, or I donate money or whatever. Then there's red is like, I want to do more. I really don't know much about this. But so then when you find each other you select your account. You also select the issues you care about most. Then you select your top 3, which shows on your profile. Ooh. So if you choose voting rights as one of your issues, then you would be connected to everyone else that selected voting rights, right? Oh. So in the app, I'll schedule a meetup to discuss voting rights in the app, sort of like Clubhouse does. I'll put the topic of discussion, and then if it's in person, I'll put the address, I'll send it out, and you would get the alert. And you could choose whether or not you want to attend. If it's virtual, right now we have to use Zoom. So you'll create a Zoom link, then you put the link in the app and send that out, and people would have the link to join your discussion. Perfect. And they're saved in like your notifications. So and then you can see if that person is green, like how many people are, we all get to see not only who we are, but like what's our level of engagement when we're talking to each other. And the idea is not to say, oh, only reds here and greens here. Is to actually bridge the gap, so that we have a very balanced space. And then the reds can move to yellow, the yellows can move to green.
That's
right?
perfect.
And thinking about that.
Yeah.
But also in the app, we're starting, if you live in Syracuse, we're starting a 2022 GOTV Get Out the Vote campaign. So because our numbers, what I'm going to be releasing on the website is the voting turnout from 2016 to 2020 in the 15th ward and the 10th ward. The 15th ward is our heavily concentrated Black community, the south side of Syracuse. The 10th ward is the west side, mostly Latino. And I did a chart. And in the chart, it's heartbreaking because it shows you from I get emotional about this a little bit, sorry. It shows you 2016 being your local election, your mayoral election, 2016, your presidential election, 2017, your mayoral election, 2019, your county election, and 2020, your presidential election. And I show the voting results from those two areas. I just want to make it really small and simple, but that's the most impoverished area, and everything you hear about going on the 15th ward right now with the viaduct and so forth, the gentrification that's happening there. And the 10th ward, and you literally see no change. There's very minimal change, under 10% of any change for registered voters and people who turned out to vote in both of those areas. I'm waiting to get 2021s from the Board of Elections. And so I use that as an agitator to ask people like yourself and others to organize others in their communities for the largest voter turnout in the history of Syracuse among Black people or among people who live in those two areas, Black, white, or Latino, whatever. But we're like the majority in those areas. So it's going to help us more as well. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that's the strategy, or a little bit about what the strategy is. But I also want to find a way to take what we're doing here and have hoods across America repeat it and do the same thing, because guess what? We're a snapshot of what it looks like in those pockets within those hoods of everywhere else where you see gentrification taking place. They have the lowest voter turnout as well. So you can't tell me that voting is not connected also to the disparities we face, and that the lack of civic education is not connected to the level of disparities we face. It's not just about just the money. It's not just all racism. It's also our lack of knowledge and participation in our governments. And if you're a leader, like, because I was going to run for office and I took my name off the ballot back in 2014, right? 2015, sorry. I was running for county ledge, and then I took myself off because I got the email to show it and put it in my book, because the news reporter reached out to me and I told her, unfortunately, I changed my mind. I needed more on the ground. So that's when I just said that just to, like, that's why I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing, because I knew that if I became a county legislator, my job was going to be more harder there because my constituents wouldn't have been engaging with me.
Absolutely.
And now I want to make it easy for legislators who want to go in and do the work to stay connected. Like, there's a whole bigger picture. It's like not just for us, but it's for them too. You know, it's for our representatives too. The problem is that they want to create their own because they want to control it. Right? The government, like New York State, I have a bills feed. You can actually see what legislation they are writing on, and I made it easy for people to understand in like 5 sentences. New York State now has a beta system that does the same thing. They didn't start doing that until I started lobbying with them. You see what I'm saying? Same thing when I was lobbying with Jennifer. I was lobbying with Mark Zuckerberg and everyone up in Washington and on the federal government about this. So because I had saw before anyone else from the ground level that, you know, there was a lack of accessibility through our mobile phones. And my research had shown that despite of your social and economic background and level of education, we all engaged around the same on our mobile phones and on social media sites. Even in Black Twitter, that's what you want to call it, Black Twitter, the way we talk about like social issues, or like if we post funny memes about somebody's house looking really poor with the mattress on the floor, that's economics. It's just about how we take it and how we spin that. You see what I'm saying? So it's meant to be funny, but that person's poor. Obviously, they would have more if they did. So using those things to to take it back and then use it to create a space and a moment of education and knowledge about civics. Those are the kind of things we're working on at Powerful Voices, to be beyond just the app, to really truly, like I'm saying, really empower. But you got to stick with us, because it's the competition is big, the monies are out there, but the fundraising is hard for Black women in technology, for Black people in technology, but Black women in technology. And then when you're in spaces like ours and you start talking about this, there's people who are bigger than you, have more power than you, that have money because they're nonprofit or they have grants, and they have these things to create these tools and these resources faster than you can. So what I'm going is doing what I know best, go directly to the people. I'm not even talking to them anymore. So if they want to know what I'm saying, they got to come to your podcast. They got to come to other people's. And I got a whole thing. I'm only doing certain podcasts, and I'm only doing, like, I'm not trying to go on CNN and nobody. I'm working from the ground up, because that's what I know what to do. So you want to know what we doing, you're going to have to find us here. You see what I'm saying?
See, I told y'all. This girl is dope as ever. I am making a commitment live here on audio that we are going to push the Powerful Voices app as often as possible. Anything you need from our perspective, we got you. If you want to come back on, we got you straight up. The power to the people is how we operate here at the Quality of Love podcast. So if that's what you're doing, that's what we pushing. Let us know what we can do from our perspective. I'll get the audience on board, and we'll definitely be pushing the Powerful Voices app. Power to the people, for sure.
Thank you. Power to the people.
For sure. Anything else, Lekia, you want to say? How can the people get in contact with you if they want to talk to you offline?
Yeah, if you want to talk offline, if you got any thoughts about what you heard and you want to contribute to some thought processing, think tanks, or whatever, anything, you can find me at lekiahill@gmail.com, or Lekia, Lekia, at Lekia Tech LLC. Check out the website, powerfulvoicesapp.com. Also, we didn't get to talk about 3ES Lifestyle Online, 3Es Lifestyle Online, where I have my diversity for women. So if you're a woman listening to this, email me. I want to talk to you more about this. Sorry.
No, you're good. Is that a support group that you started?
Yeah, this is my community of diverse women I'm building for the media platform we have through Lekia Tech LLC. Got some stuff going on. We got mugs.
So Leah, come on,
we have
girl,
wine
show
with a
all of
cause,
that.
one
All
book
of that.
wine.
Let me see all
we
of
got
that.
Wine. Yeah, this is wine that gives back. Like,
promote your products.
You already know. So
now that the 3Es lifestyle brand, is that, how can so let's say a woman would like to know more about that, how can they find out more about that and connect with
you can email me at the same emails, Lekia at Lekia Tech LLC, Lekia at Lekia Tech LLC.com. If you want to check the site out, it's 3eslifestyleonline.com. But yeah, email me there and I'll share more about what we're doing here. If you go to 3eslifestyleonline.com and what is it called? Subscribe, then you'll get updates. And that's for men and women, because we have a man cave. So, yeah.
You showing love to the brothers too?
I'm showing love to, what's diversity without putting our brothers up in there, man? Like, come on. Gotta give you a space somewhere.
Jeez, man. Is there anything you don't do?
Yeah, I don't sleep much. I'm gonna start. So get in right now, because I'm trying to hire people. I'm looking for interns. I'm trying to give myself some grace.
Yes.
And be there more for my daughter. You know, my son, like, he's in college right now, but I want to kind of take what I learned with being his mom and kind of be better with her. So
yeah, apply it to her. Well, I will tell you, good luck on are you doing a pitch competition on Monday, right?
No, I'm not pitching.
What?
Yeah, I missed because I know I need that $3,000 if
for real, girl.
At least the 500. But I missed you got to stick to the rules. The practice. Okay, yeah, I missed one of them, so it's not fair.
What? Get
I know.
Out of here.
Sucks. Yeah.
Well, at the very least, you have us. it's been a pleasure to start to get to know you, Lekia. I definitely am not gonna allow you to just drift off on your own.
No,
I'm gonna be bugging you as we continue to grow together from
yes,
our Black
please
Media
do, please do.
Mogul Maker class. Thank you. I do from the bottom of my heart appreciate you
Thank
taking
you.
out the time on this Saturday. Audience, I'll have all of Lekia's bio and information before we get this episode released. So that way you're able to contact her and you're able to get that powerful voices that power to the people, power will stay to the people. From now on, we bring in our constituents and our representatives to us. And that's just how we rock and going forward. All right. That's all I have. Remember, as always, the quality of love and relationship that you have in your life, everyone, really does determine the quality of your life. Lekia, thank you again.
Thank you.
And everyone have a good evening.
Bye.